In Town, 22 years before the present, Marine Vice Admiral Garp escorts the Pirate King, Gold Roger, towards his execution platform. As the crowd gathers, one of the spectators shouts out, asking where Roger's treasure is hidden. Smiling, Roger declares that he left it all for anyone daring enough to find. Moments later, the executioners drive their spears into his back, ultimately ending his life. However, his final words continue to ignite a frenzy across the seas, marking the beginning of the Great Pirate Era. Now, in the present, a boy named Monkey D. Luffy dreams of becoming a pirate and finding Roger's hidden treasure, the so-called One Piece, so that he can live with complete freedom. Stranded in a sinking dinghy, he hides inside a barrel that drifts into a battle between a passenger ship and the Alvida pirates. Captain Alvida and her crew easily overpower the ship's defenses. Curious about the whereabouts of bounty hunter Roronoa Zoro, she interrogates the crew. When she learns he isn't after her, she kills a crew member in a fit of rage and orders her cabin boy Koby to clean up the mess. That same night, Koby happens to stumble upon the barrel and is startled when Luffy suddenly bursts out of it. After getting something to eat, Luffy learns where he is and reveals that he's a pirate, but not like Alvida's crew. He tells Koby about how 10 years earlier he had admired Shanks and the red-haired pirates, even stabbing himself under the eye to prove his courage. Koby, who lives as Alvida's unwilling servant, is amazed by Luffy's determination to find the One Piece, sail the Grand Line, and live a life of freedom. Soon after, Koby and Luffy attempt to escape, but Koby accidentally rings a bell, which wakes up Alvida and her crew. Alvida mistakes Luffy for a bounty hunter, so she attacks him with her iron mace. Luffy, however, effortlessly deflects a bullet with his rubber body, revealing his gum-gum powers. He then launches a powerful gum-gum pistol, which punches Alvida and sends her flying overboard while still protecting Koby. Seizing the opportunity, Luffy manages to ride a small boat and brings Koby with him as they set off. On the other hand, Roronoa Zoro, a highly skilled swordsman, kills Mr. 7 of the organization on Sixus Island after refusing an offer to join Baroque Works. Out at sea, Koby learns how Luffy gained his rubber powers. He shares that as a child, Luffy accidentally ate the gum-gum fruit, which is a devil fruit. One day, when Shanks and his crew were at a bar, the bandit Higuma mocked Shanks for being a coward. So, Shanks grabbed his arm and Luffy discovered his newfound rubber abilities. Determined to follow their own paths, Luffy decides to take Koby to a nearby marine base so that Koby can enlist and he can get a map of the Grand Line. Elsewhere, Nami, a skilled navigator and thief, cleverly tricks a group of pirates, stealing both their maps and their ship. When Luffy and Koby arrive at Town, they find that the Marines are under the command of the tyrannical Captain Morgan. At a local bar, Zoro protects a young girl named Rika and her rice balls from Helmeppo, who is Morgan's arrogant son. He reacts by beating both Zoro and several Marines. Meanwhile, Nami disguises herself and sneaks into the Marine base to steal the Grand Line map as well. Zoro, despite his strength, is eventually captured by Morgan and forced to accept imprisonment for attacking the Marines. The next day, Luffy emerges from a sewer and happens to encounter Zoro at his makeshift cell. When Luffy invites him to join his crew, Zoro refuses, explaining that his only goal is to become the greatest swordsman in the world. While Luffy respects his ambition, he still decides to untie him anyway. Elsewhere, Nami disguises herself as a Marine and slips into the base library to search for the Grand Line map. However, she's immediately caught by the soldier whose uniform she stole. As she takes down 2 Marines, Luffy suddenly crashes through the ceiling. After he overhears her goals, Nami reluctantly agrees to team up with him temporarily to be able to find the map. In the hallway, Luffy and Nami unexpectedly cross paths with Captain Morgan. Nami manages to bluff her way through the encounter and even skillfully pickpockets his keys in the process. When Luffy asks her to join his crew, she bluntly expresses her hatred of pirates. The two proceed to make their way to Morgan's office, where they find the Grand Line map hidden inside a safe. However, Morgan soon discovers that his Marines have been beaten up and raises the alarm. In the chaos, Luffy rips the safe out of the floor. In his panic, he accidentally hurled both himself and Nami out of the window. When they are thrown outside, Morgan and his Marines quickly surround Luffy and Nami. Just as the situation turns dangerous, Zoro suddenly bursts onto the scene, joining the fight. The 3 of them take on Morgan's forces together. Zoro unleashes his 3-sword style, pinning Morgan's axe arm and allowing Luffy to finish him off with a powerful gum-gum whip. They are able to successfully escape with the safe back to Luffy's boat. But when Luffy calls them a crew, both Zoro and Nami firmly deny it. Meanwhile, Helmeppo tries to arrest them, but Koby knocks him out, finally standing up for himself. Choosing to forge his own path, Koby decides to stay behind and enlist in the Marines. Though it would mean that they may one day face each other as enemies, Koby and Luffy still choose to part ways on good terms and as friends. While at sea, Garp, a high-ranking officer in the Marines, learns that a pirate wearing a straw hat has stolen the Grand Line map and decides to head for Town. Meanwhile, Kabaji of Buggy Pirates reports to his captain, Buggy, about Luffy's crew and their newly acquired map, prompting Buggy to prepare for their upcoming encounter. 10 years earlier, after eating a devil fruit, young Luffy started experimenting with his new gum-gum powers inside the party's bar. As Shanks and his crew arrived to prepare for a long voyage, Shanks revealed that he wouldn't be returning to Windmill Village afterward. Makino, the woman who runs the party's bar, explained to Luffy that the devil fruits grant supernatural powers but take away the ability to swim in exchange, so they call it a deal with the devil. In the present, Zoro, Nami, and Luffy continue their journey together at sea. Luffy's playful antics nearly sent his straw hat flying overboard, showing just how precious it is to him. Meanwhile, Nami focuses on cracking open Morgan's safe, determined to see what's inside. As she works, she explains the basic structure of the world and shares with them that she is skeptical about the existence of the One Piece, but Luffy remains completely unfazed by her doubts and his faith in his dream remains firm. Soon after, the safe gets opened, but their happiness is short-lived as a nearby ship suddenly fires a red gas attack, which traps them in a strange cloud. Because of the gas, all three of them gradually lose consciousness. Then, during a Buggy Pirates circus performance, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami regain consciousness inside a wooden crate, just as it is being pried open before the crowd. The town's residents, who are all forced to play along, cheer on cue despite their lingering fear. Buggy the Clown makes a dramatic entrance and announces that he wants the Grand Line map for himself. Nami soon realizes that the whole Orange Town has been devastated by Buggy's crew already, so she tries to slip away in the commotion, but she's quickly caught. This time, Buggy turns his attention to Luffy, interrogating him in front of the audience. To make their capture more entertaining, Nami is locked inside a birdcage, while Zoro is bound to a spinning wheel, which sets the stage for Buggy's twisted circus act. Meanwhile, Garp and his aide Bogard have just arrived at Shellstown to investigate the situation. Morgan tries to cover up his failure by lying, and he shifts the blame onto his son Helmeppo. Koby, who has just joined the Marines, instantly becomes a prime suspect for being a potential mole because he was previously seen alongside Luffy. Though he openly admits his past with Luffy, he declares that his dream is to become a true Marine. Surprisingly, Garp accepts his honesty but assigns him to assist in the pursuit of the Straw Hat Pirate. Back in Orange Town, Zoro and Nami reluctantly work together to escape from their captivity. Kabaji, whose brother Zoro once killed for a bounty, tries to threaten him by turning their confrontation into a deadly knife-throwing game. But before things can escalate further, Nami manages to free herself first and knock Kabaji unconscious, which allows Zoro to break free as well. Buggy uses a torture device in the main tent to stretch Luffy's limbs, but his rubber body easily withstands it. Spotting the straw hat, Buggy immediately recognizes it as Shanks, so he accuses Shanks of betraying him in the past. He explains that they once served on the same crew and reveals their shared history. Buggy then tries to persuade Luffy to join his crew, but Luffy refuses. To demonstrate his power, Buggy shows off his Chop Chop Fruit abilities by detaching his hand and attacking. He then finishes by throwing a gas bomb and knocking Luffy unconscious. In a flashback, Luffy recalls being kidnapped by Higuma and taken out to sea, where the Lord of the Coast attacks them. Just as the Sea King moves in, Shanks appears just in time to save Luffy, but he loses his left arm in the process. His intimidating presence alone is enough to send the creature fleeing. When Luffy awakens in the present, he finds himself imprisoned in a glass tank filled with water. Luffy declines Buggy's offer of freedom in return for his allegiance. Meanwhile, Zoro and Nami enter the tent after escaping the green room. Fortunately, Luffy is set free when Nami smashes the tank, but as he concentrates on getting his hat back, Buggy seizes the map. Because Buggy's body is broken, Zoro's attacks are quite ineffective against him. By breaking into several pieces, pinning Luffy to the ground, and piercing his hat, Buggy is able to overwhelm them. Luffy quickly comes up with a plan after noticing a stack of empty chests. He, Zoro, and Nami coordinate their moves, striking Buggy's detached body parts one by one and stuffing them into a chest to trap him. Then, Luffy finishes by using his Gum Gum Bazooka, blasting Buggy out of the tent and leaving him reduced to just his head, hands, and feet. With Buggy defeated, they are able to retrieve the Grand Line map, free the townspeople, and set sail once again. As they leave, Luffy recalls the day Shanks placed the straw hat on his head, entrusting it to him until he became stronger. Meanwhile, in Shellstown, Garp exposes Morgan's lies and makes it clear that rooting out corruption within the Marines is essential to their fight against pirates. As he officially launches a manhunt for Luffy, Koby listens to the announcement but is still conflicted between his duty as a Marine and his loyalty to his friend. As they set sail toward the Grand Line, Nami secretly uses a Den Den Mushi to contact someone. Using her most quiet and measured voice, she reports that she has successfully obtained the Grand Line map. While Luffy and Zoro focus on the journey and sail ahead, it seems like Nami has another agenda. Meanwhile, in Syrup Village, a young man named Usopp has spent the last 7 years ringing the bell every morning and running through the streets to warn the people of incoming pirates. However, what once caused panic in the town has now become a daily nuisance, and the villagers mostly ignore his cries. Out at sea, Nami and Zoro remind Luffy that they are still not a real crew, but Luffy proudly shows off the Jolly Roger he made for them anyway. As Zoro investigates the seawater leaking sneaking into a hidden compartment, Nami rushes to salvage her belongings, including a broken Den Mushi earpiece, which is the same one she used to contact someone about the Grand Line map. Realizing their ship won't last much longer, she sets their course for the Gecko Islands, where a reputable shipyard offers their only chance of making repairs before they sink completely into the sea. On the other hand, Koby and Helmeppo are working on the rigging of Garp's battleship as it sails. During a game of Go, Koby manages to fix a poorly tied knot Helmeppo made, which earns him an unexpected praise from Garp, and he uses the moment to teach him about strategy. In their match, Koby initially loses for playing too cautiously, but he decides to change his mindset and wins by taking risks. Following this, Garp explains that pirates are bold and aggressive, so Marines must learn to match that energy in order to stop them. When Helmeppo reports that Luffy's Jolly Roger was found and traced to the Gecko Islands, Garp recognizes Koby's skill and names him a senior cadet, emphasizing the importance of ability over connections. At the same time, a mysterious, non-human messenger from Arlong suddenly confronts Buggy, who is still in Orange Town and is struggling to reassemble his scattered body. Buggy attempts to attack the stranger, but he is effortlessly defeated and dragged to Arlong, who is the most feared pirate in the East Blue. Unable to pay his tribute, Buggy bargains for his life by revealing that Luffy is the one who possesses the Grand Line map. He also offers to help track Luffy down, and Arlong eventually agrees to the deal. Elsewhere, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami arrive in Syrup Village on the Gecko Islands and head to the local shipyard. While Zoro and Nami look for a small vessel they could steal, Luffy dreams of something grand. He becomes fixated on a unique boat that has a sheep figurehead. Then, out of nowhere, Usopp appears and explains that the ship belongs to his wealthy friend Kaya, and he also offers to show them around. After Usopp sneaks Luffy, Zoro, and Nami onto Kaya's estate, they are confronted by Klahadore, her strict and seemingly loyal butler. But Kaya, who is a frail but cheerful person despite her illness, warmly welcomes Usopp and his companions to his estate and insists they join her for dinner to celebrate her upcoming 18th birthday. Klahadore initially objects to this idea, disapproving of their presence, but Kaya overrules him with a smile. That night, Luffy and Nami strike a deal. If Kaya agrees to gift them the ship, they'll accept it graciously, but if not, then they'll simply steal another. During dinner, Luffy carelessly blurts out that they are pirates, which startles the household. Klahadore expresses his dissatisfaction with pirates and voices his suspicion of their intentions, but Kaya suddenly begins coughing, which cuts the argument short. Despite Klahadore's protests, she kindly allows them to stay the night at the estate. Later that night, Mary, the family attorney, confronts Klahadore about his plans to seize control of the shipyard. Facing this, Klahadore finally drops his facade and reveals himself as Captain Kuro of the Black Cat Pirates. Moving with deadly speed, he stabs Mary and leaves him for dead. When Zoro and Usopp stumble upon Mary's body downstairs, Kuro strikes again, and this time, he is joined by his subordinates Bucci and Sham. Although Usopp manages to escape, Zoro and Mary are knocked unconscious and thrown into a well. Desperate, Usopp races through the village, ringing his bell to warn everyone of the ongoing pirate attack. However, after years of false alarms, no one believes him. Through flashbacks, it's revealed that he began ringing the bell as a child to comfort his ailing mother, Banchina, who is still holding on to the hope that his father, Yasopp, would one day return. In the present, as he collapses in despair, Koby approaches him and, unlike the rest of the villagers, declares that he believes in Usopp's warning. After Luffy unknowingly consumes Bucci's poisoned soup, Kuro, Sham, and Bucci soon find him asleep in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Usopp brings Koby and Helmeppo to Kaya's mansion and accuses Klahadore of being the pirate Kuro. However, Koby can't make an arrest without evidence. After midnight, when Kaya legally inherits her estate, Kuro hands the unconscious Luffy over to Bucci and orders Sham and Bucci to kill Kaya. With this, Usopp rushes to Kaya's room to warn her, but she doesn't believe him, even when Nami shows up with evidence. Kuro locks down the mansion and heads to Kaya's bedroom, raising his clawed gloves to kill her. At the bottom of the well, Zoro regains consciousness and remembers his time in Shimotsuki village. As a child, he constantly loses to Kuina, who is the dojo master's daughter. The two promise that one of them will become the greatest swordsman in the world. After Kuina's sudden death, Zoro takes up her heirloom sword, Wado Ichimonji, and makes that promise his own. Meanwhile, Usopp and Koby hurry to protect Kaya, and Nami frees Zoro from the well. Zoro climbs out of the well and saves Luffy from Helmeppo and Koby. Luffy then returns to the mansion and faces Sham and Bucci in the foyer. As Kuro arrives, Luffy confronts him head-on, but Kuro uses his stealth foot technique to dodge Luffy's attacks. However, Luffy studies his movements carefully, lands a powerful strike, and finishes with a gum-gum bell that launches Kuro out the window. After this, Kaya gives the caravel that Luffy admires to the Straw Hats as a token of gratitude for their help, and Luffy names the ship the Going Merry in honor of Mary. Then, Usopp officially joins the crew, excited to set out on an adventure. But just as they sail away, Garp's battleship suddenly appears and attacks at the sight of their vessel. Luffy uses a spyglass to get a closer look and immediately recognizes the man on the ship ship as his grandfather, the crew ends up at the Baratie, a floating restaurant in the middle of the sea, because Zoro's injuries from the fight are severe, and they need a place to rest and recover. There, Luffy asks Sanji, the restaurant's sous chef, to join the crew, while Zeph, their head chef, stitches up Zoro's wounds. However, Sanji refuses while recounting his past. He shares that as a boy working aboard the Orbit, he is stranded on a deserted island with Zeph after a pirate attack. To keep Sanji alive and allow him to pursue his dream of finding the All Blue, Zeph sacrifices his leg and all their food. Just then, Buggy helps Arlong and his fishman pirates infiltrate the Baratie. Arlong demands the Grand Line map, but Luffy refuses, so Arlong overpowers him with his immense strength. He throws Luffy into the sea. Nami is revealed to be one of Arlong's officers, so she takes the map and leaves with him. Sanji, on the other hand, dives in and rescues Luffy from drowning. Soon, Zoro regains consciousness aboard the Going Merry and pledges his loyalty to the crew, which officially solidifies their bond. At the Baratie, Zeph also encourages Sanji to follow his dream of finding the All Blue, which is the legendary sea where all the world's fish gather. Inspired by his words, Sanji decides to join Luffy's crew as their cook. Now, with their new crewmate aboard, the Straw Hats set sail toward Arlong Park to confront Arlong and bring Nami back. Meanwhile, Garp orders the full Marine force to pursue Luffy, marking the beginning of a large-scale manhunt. 8 years earlier in Cocoa Village, it is revealed that Belle-Mère, a former Marine, raised Nami and Nojiko as her adoptive daughters. When Arlong and his crew invaded the village, she refused to deny her connection to them, choosing to protect them instead. She was able to use her limited money to pay the tribute for Nami and Nojiko, but not for herself. As a result, Arlong killed Belle-Mère in front of the girls, but spared Nami and Nojiko and left them traumatized. As a result, Nami decided to join Arlong's crew as a cartographer in order to secretly save Cocoa Village by buying its freedom for 100 million berries. When the Straw Hats arrive at the Konami Islands in the present, Nojiko explains Nami's true motives to them. After years of working under Arlong, Nami finally gathers the full amount, but Arlong betrays her by calling in the corrupt Marine Nezumi to confiscate the money as government property. Realizing the betrayal, Nami breaks down in rage and repeatedly stabs her Arlong tattoo, symbolizing her hatred for him and everything he has done to them. Meanwhile, Arlong's crew begins attacking Cocoa Village. At that moment, Luffy arrives, ready to support Nami and face Arlong directly. After discovering that the Arlong pirates have destroyed Cocoa Village, the Straw Hats launch an all-out assault on Arlong Park. The crew splits up to take on different enemies across the battlefield. In the forest, Usopp is the one who cleverly provokes Chu into a series of alcohol-fueled outbursts, where he ultimately outsmarts and defeats him. Zoro and Sanji, on the other hand, team up to take down the lower-ranking Arlong pirates. Sanji uses his powerful black leg style to knock out Koby. Meanwhile, Luffy confronts Arlong inside Nami's map room. As Arlong overpowers him in direct combat, Luffy realizes the emotional weight the room holds for Nami, as it symbolizes all of her suffering and forced servitude for the past years. Instead of simply fighting Arlong head-on, Luffy uses his Gum Gum battle axe to smash the room's supports, which causes the entire structure to collapse. Because of this, Arlong is buried beneath the rubble and is finally defeated, while Nami's long-standing torment comes to an end. Soon, Garp arrives in Cocoa Village to arrest Luffy after the battle. Even though Luffy is exhausted and vulnerable at that moment, Garp chooses to spare him, recognizing and respecting his grandson's unwavering determination. Instead, he orders the capture of Arlong and his crew, which marks the end of their reign of terror over the Konami Islands. News of Luffy's victory also spreads quickly, and he gains international attention when the Marines issue the highest bounty in East Blue, worth 30 million berries, marking him as a rising threat. As Garp begins personally training Koby and Helmeppo, he pushes them to become stronger Marines, and the Straw Hats bid farewell to Cocoa Village. Nami also becomes an official part of the crew. As they set sail for the Grand Line, they are now ready to face the greater challenges that await them.